Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. It's great to see a full house here today. I'm sorry that we are indoors. The last two Juneteenth celebrations have been on beautiful days, but we're here to celebrate and observe in an intentional way, nonetheless. We will shortly, after the program inside concludes, we will be going outside to raise the Juneteenth flag, which shines with a star surrounded by a burst of light, which celebrates the burst of freedom recognized on Juneteenth back in 1865, and even on a cloudy, rainy day, we can celebrate that occurrence. I will first acknowledge that the town of Brighton, and specifically this town hall, is situated on the ancestral and traditional lands of the Onondaga tribe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and we recognize and respect them as the traditional custodians of this land through the generations. We pay our respect to Onondaga elders, both past and present. Just as we all can and should study and learn from Black history and the celebration of the traditions of Juneteenth, the history, the culture, and the traditions of the Onondaga are also highly worthy of our understanding and our study, and we praise those who keep those traditions alive. We recognize that the study of those traditions is of ongoing importance if we are to truly understand the history of our community and our nation. And we support all efforts to ensure that we and future generations continue that study and that respect in a way that is honest and truthful, so that in the words of Sacagawea, the great orator who was also known as Red Jacket, we may always work together to brighten the chain of friendship. Juneteenth is a day of celebration, but it's also a day of painful irony. Juneteenth arose out of the celebration around the issuance of General Order Number 3 by General Gordon Granger as he arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. That order served to announce that slaves had been freed, but the institution of slavery, the system of slavery, was so insidious that even though the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued more than 2 years earlier by President Lincoln, even though the Civil War had ended more than 2 months before June 19, 1865, the slaves of Galveston were still exactly that, slaves, property, chattel, 3/5 of a person at best. The words of General Granger's order were simple and direct. Quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and the rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection therefore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer." Think about that, directing the nature of that relationship. And his order went on to direct that the newly freed people remain quietly in their present homes and work for wages, that they not collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness. Their true freedom was tenuous at best. It took another 156 years before the federal government recognized what people across the country had known for years, that Juneteenth was a holiday, that it was celebrating not just an order issued by General Granger, but the freedom of people yearning to breathe free. Juneteenth is a day of independence, just as surely as July 4th is. Juneteenth is not a day where we rewrite history, as some may have suggested. Instead, it's a day that we celebrate and we learn history. We learn that history from our brothers and sisters whose American experience has been tarnished with the slavery of their forebears, and whose American experience today is all too often still tarnished by the remnants of a system that kept slaves in Galveston in shackles 2 years after they were freed. It is our honor to celebrate this Day of Independence, but it's also our duty to learn that history and to ensure that we learn from that history. In Brighton, we'll continue to work to fulfill that duty, whether here in town government, as we implement our IDEA plan, as leaders in local government DEI work, or in the community as a whole, where neighbors and neighborhoods, churches, mosques, and synagogues come together in solidarity. I do want to introduce some folks that are here today, and we certainly appreciate all of you being here. Members of the Brighton Town Board are all here. Robin Wilt, Jason DePonzio, Chris Werner, and Christine Corrado are all here today. Along with Town Judge Karen Morris, Town Clerk Dan Amon, and I'm very pleased that a number of our town department heads are here with us today as well. From the county legislature, we have Howard Mafucci, Linda Hassman, and Sue Hughes Smith. Thank you, all of you. And do we have representatives from Senator Cooney or? Yeah, oh yeah, there you are. Thank you, Nia. It's good to see you here. And from Assemblymember Clark's office. I meant Cooney. Yes. I thought Amanda might be coming, but in any event. Well, thank you to all of the officials that are here. This is now, I'm very excited. We will be, and I will ask you to rise as we welcome Kijana Cruz, who will be singing, Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. Kijana is an artist whose jazzy, neo-soul, smooth sound touches the soul, while her lyrics tell stories about life and love. Her music crosses many genres, but her roots began with gospel, jazz, and blues. She sings both original music and cover songs. Kijana is a native of Rochester and has performed with a number of popular wedding bands across New York State. In 2020, Kijana was nominated as Best Female Vocalist for the Rock Awards. Her original song, Beautiful Specimen, is being played now regularly on WXIR 100.9 FM. Please welcome Kijana Cruz, who will sing the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing, and please rise if you're able to do so.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Wow, Kijana, thank you so much. That was magnificent. Thank you, thank you. I mentioned our diversity work at the beginning of the program, but I neglected to mention a couple people who are here that have been so central to that work. Our Chief Diversity Officer, Miriam Moore. Thank you for organizing. The chair of our IDEA board, our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board, Mark Kokanovich, is here. Thank you, Mark. I know I saw Amy Shee here. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for being here. We are going to hear from Councilmember Robin Wilk with her acknowledgement of Juneteenth. Robin?
Welcome to our third annual Juneteenth celebration and flag raising here in Brighton. I am honored to offer reflections and remarks on the holiday. So Juneteenth is more than an observance and celebration of freedom. It's also a time to recognize the historical struggle for equity. Celebrating Juneteenth as a national holiday provides us the opportunity for Americans as a collective to ensure that the history of Black Americans is part of American history. And as such, to never forget that our history shapes our current circumstances. In recent history, there has been a pitched battle over whose narratives would be included in the fabric of the American tapestry. In the typical American origin story, the evolution of our nation is a constant defense of freedom and the rights of all humankind. One of the reasons that there has been a struggle to include the voices of African Americans into that mythical narrative is that we are stark reminders of some of the most inconvenient truths relative to our nation's history. As Frederick Douglass wrote in his 1892 autobiography, quote, "The story of the master never wanted for narrators. The master, to tell their story, had at call all the talent and genius that wealth and influence could command. They have their full day in court. Literature, theology, philosophy, law, and learning have come willingly to their service. And if condemned, they will not have been condemned unheard," unquote. The celebration of Juneteenth, I would argue, has been to tell the story of those enslaved. Juneteenth is an opportunity for African Americans to reflect on our struggle for freedom in this nation, what it has meant, the pain and suffering it has caused, but it is also an opportunity to reflect on the hopes and aspirations of what America is and what it could be, and a time to remember that the struggle for freedom is ongoing. Juneteenth has also been referred to as African American Independence Day. In 1852, right here in Rochester, New York, as white Americans celebrated our nation's founding, Frederick Douglass asked us, quote, "What to the American slave is your 4th of July?" Unquote. We often forget, however, that Frederick Douglass's question, it was not just, it was not rhetoric, right? He answered that question. To a slave, the 4th of July is, quote, "a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him, the slave, mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour," end quote. And I know that's really hard to hear. But from the bitterness of Douglass's reflections of the day, in Juneteenth, we find hope in how far we have come. Juneteenth is ultimately about resilience. As Nicole Hannah-Jones maintains, quote, "More than any other group in this country's history, African Americans have served generation after generation in an overlooked but vital role. It is we who have been the perfecters of this democracy, unquote. So as we celebrate Juneteenth today, and through the observed holiday, let us not forget Nicole Hannah Jones's exhortations. It is historically inaccurate to reduce the contributions of Black people to the vast material wealth created by our bondage. Black Americans have been and continue to be foundational to the idea of American freedom. On Juneteenth and every other day, let us not forget our individual role in the ongoing struggle to perfect our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. Next, I'm very pleased to bring up Ella Simpson. Ella is a student at Brighton High School who will offer her reflections on Juneteenth. Ella?
I don't know if it works. I've never used a real microphone before, so.
Would you like to use? Is it easier for you to use that one? Okay.
No. To me, the significance of Juneteenth is a day to recount the progress that Black people have made throughout history, as well as to celebrate our perseverance. Through slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, civil rights movements, and even our own Black Lives Matter movement in Rochester itself, the community has shown both endurance and determination. As a young Black adult in today's world, it's important that I, as well as others, should learn about African American history and the sacrifices of the many that had come before us. Why? So that we know and understand the historical significance behind June 19th, how it speaks about our history and gives the community a voice to tell the world about our experience. Without this sharing of history, the difference between fact and fiction become a blurred line. This is why Juneteenth is important, but it's not just important to me. It's important to our past, our present, and our future.
Thank you so much, Ella. Those two reminders of the significance of today, very powerful, very moving, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much. Next, I introduced her already, but I'm going to bring our Chief Diversity Officer, Miriam Moore, for her thoughts.
Good afternoon. I have an affinity for the arts, particularly poetry that speaks to the historical experiences of Blacks in America. I'd like to share a piece with you today titled Renegade by Robert Hayden. The author carefully crafted each stanza, allowing you to feel the urgency, the fear, and the hope. Renegade. Renegade, renegade. Many thousands rise and come. Many thousands crossing over. Old mythic north. Old star-shaped yonder, Bible city. Some go weeping and some rejoicing. Some in coffins and some in carriages. Some in silk and some in shackles. Rise and go, or fare ye well. No more auction block for me. No more driver's lash for me. And before I be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave. North Star, Bonanza Gold, I'm bound for the freedom, freedom bound. And oh, Susiana, don't you cry for me. Renegades, renegades. Harriet Tubman, a woman of earth, a whip scar, a summoning, a shining, means to be free. And this was the way of it, my brethren. The way we journeyed from Kent to Cannes. The moon so bright and no place to hide. The cries up and the padded rollers riding. Hound dogs bailing in blading air. And fear starts mumbling. You never make it. You never make it. Hush up now, hush up. And she turned upon us, level pistol, glittering in the moonlight. Dead folks can't jaybird talk. She says, y'all keep on going now or die. She says, come, ride my train. Oh, that train, ghost story train, over swamps of savannah, over trestles of dew, a midnight saber on a saber track, moving. First stop Mercy, and the next, hallelujah. Thank you.
Miriam, we are so blessed to have you with us in our organization. It's been just over a year since we had the good fortune to bring Miriam in as our Chief Diversity Officer. And I think we all see from moments like this and from the hard work that she does day in and day out, not only within these walls, not only within this building, training, meeting, but in the community as a whole. And with that gift that she has, you truly move the needle. And we're grateful. Thank you so much, Miriam. As we do each year, the town board issued a Juneteenth proclamation this past Wednesday night. I will read that now, and then maybe it'll stop raining, but in any event, we're going to go outside and raise the Juneteenth flag. So let me read that proclamation. Whereas President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, effective January 1, 1863, freed slaves in areas controlled by the Confederacy, but it was not until June 19th, 1865, that word reached the farthest outposts of slavery, when U.S. Major General Gordon Granger announced in Galveston, Texas, that under General Order No. 3, there was now, quote, an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, end quotes. But at the same time told the newly freed people to, quote, remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. And they were warned not to, quote, collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere, end quotes. And whereas free, but still constrained socially and economically, the following celebration by freed slaves in Texas became an annual tradition for generations of descendants, and Juneteenth was spread across the country by African Americans moving in search of better opportunities. Whereas Juneteenth finally became a national holiday in 2021, and it is both a celebratory and somber day. as we commemorate African American freedom and gather to truthfully acknowledge a period in our history that shaped and continues to shape our society today. And whereas Juneteenth is a time for reflection and rejoicing, also a time for assessment, self-improvement, and planning the future, let us unite in our determination to join the ongoing struggle of African Americans to achieve equality in all facets of society, so that they may live without fear and prosper in a country no longer divided along ambiguous lines of race. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of our Town Council do hereby recognize June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth in the town of Brighton. And we call upon all Brightonians to reject hate, repudiate racism, and promote Brighton's intentional culture of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And this proclamation is signed June 14th of 2023 by myself and by my colleagues on the town board, and I thank each of you for signing this proclamation. We will be displaying it out in our lobby. That's the end of our program in here. I do want to invite everyone to come out and join me out there. I also want to invite everybody to come to the farmers market on Sunday, this coming Sunday, June 18th, where we will be celebrating Juneteenth throughout the market from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we will have a formal Juneteenth program starting at 11:45. And of course, the Brighton Farmers Market is in the parking lot at Brighton High School. I hope to see many of you there. Let's go raise the flag.
Thank you again, everybody, for coming today. Please remember the words that you've heard today, incorporate them into your lives, and let's continue to move forward with full knowledge of the history that comes by. Thank you, everybody, for